Now, let's talk about reality in television and movies. Now yes, it's a point that actually was made fairly recently by someone called the Metatron. He was actually talking specifically about Vikings, that TV series by history with Ragnar Lothbrok and people like that. And the point certainly rings true. There's the idea that indeed, of course, when it comes to it, when you look at things like historical accuracy versus entertainment, obviously you want that sort of program to be fun. But here's the thing that always gets people like me and indeed Metatron and other people. It's the idea of that actually, sometimes the realistic thing makes sense. It's more fun. For example, you wouldn't want to have the Vikings and have everybody floating around, and every time they were, not just in, exciting battle scenes, and they were maybe pushing themselves off like swimmers off of buildings or something, and maybe stuff like that. But even, when they're trying to have all that, the plot progressing and serious conversations, but they're all bouncing around like they're in some kind of spacecraft, it would look stupid. It would look shit, frankly. Nobody would want to watch it. It would be like some kind of psychedelic little drug dream, and then they'd think maybe it's kind of funny for the first 2 episodes, and then they just get fed up and leave for something that's at least slightly grounded in reality, stuffed with dragons and the rest. So hence, when you look at things like, for example, outfits, this was something that Metatron mentioned, when they represent historical people, it's always got to be everyone looks sort of brown or just grey, and then they've got a bit of dirt on their face and they just kind of look fairly samey in that sense. And then they might have some sort of weird sort of biker jacket or bondage style leather stuff all over them, all pretty much the same, and it doesn't look exciting. Whereas you actually have, historically, you had, the colours that you could have, which you could apply to clothing, which would represent certain character traits. It's like, for example, if you had someone who was more sort of reserved, maybe the advisor type, not someone very, maybe not want to take the initiative, someone more cautious, but also wise and sensible. And you could have them in something like blue. And then you could have someone who's more the impetuous type, maybe more militaristic, wants to just get stuck in there and get the problem solved. No questions asked, shoot first, ask questions later sort of thing. And you could have them in red, and so on and so forth. And you can have all these characters boldly and plainly represented with their traits in different colours, different outfits. You have different things going on, and all of that would actually be more realistic. But instead they decide, no. These are peasants and warriors and people. They need to just be in brown leather. And let's make this person different. Let's give them black leather. And this guy, well, I guess we'll have to use brown and black again. It looks stupid. It looks less enticing, less realistic. So hence you've got a situation where it's not a conflict between realism and, actually being interesting. It's the same thing. You can do the realistic thing to be more exciting. Instead, people want to hold themselves back with stereotypes. It'd be like if you had the show Vikings and you had everyone in exactly the same identical helmet with horns on. It would just look more stupid. And same again with things like the clothing. You'd see people who, when they're warriors, especially things like Vikings, sometimes go with less or no clothing. Well, not completely naked, but they get situations like that, or even with things like weapons. It's always, this guy's got an arming sword, this guy's got an arming sword, and this guy, and maybe they'll have shields. Sometimes they'll have the different, patterns and things to represent maybe a part of their character, maybe just generic decorations, all grimy and dirty again, because it's the medieval period and nobody washed. Not true. So we can't have anything distinct on those shields. It's got to be kind of generic. Oh, I might be able to see a swirl or swivel under there, don't know. Or just, they belong to this faction, so they'll all have identical shields. So they all look like cardboard cutouts of each other. Whereas, again, With the realistic situation, where you'd actually have maybe things like coats of arms, you could have things like different insignias, you could have certain representations, maybe someone who's more sort of sneaky and cunning, maybe has a snake on their shield, I'm the clever one who will catch you out, or maybe someone who's mighty and strong and will use their body weight to their advantage with a boar on their shield. It's more exciting and more realistic. It's not a conflict, it's the same bloody thing. Why then would people hold themselves back with crap stereotypes and cliches? That's the question I pose to the audience and to the producers of such things. Yes, things like dragons, or maybe the lore of having things like the characters talking to, Zeus or Odin or someone like that, and have those sorts of things which aren't realistic, but, add a bit of extra interest, and, dragons flying around and let's slay the wyvern, It's obviously that's going to add some interest, you can have different dynamics going on, all sorts of things like that. But at the same time, again, with things like the other sections of realism that are interesting at the same time, why omit them? It's ridiculous. That's just my point for today. I'll stop rambling now. Goodbye!